All right, you beautiful people in the world who are watching me. I'm Anthony Brogdon, the host of the Strong Inspiration Show. Let me tell you something. When my man first came on, I didn't call it a show. But as he has come on for the third time, we have progressed to be a show because it's people like him that are sharing this Black history intelligently that we are now a show. That's what I tell people about is come on the Strong Inspiration Show where you know what I do. I give it to you straight, no chaser. And man, oh man, I tell you, I stay in touch with this guy. I send messages to all my guests, but I really send to this guy because he be posting and I'm like, ooh, come on back on anytime. You have an open door policy at Strong Inspirations. I'm so excited. And what he's going to talk about today, if you can notice, I put on my African shirt and he has his on because we're going to talk about the motherland where civilization all came from. Don't dispute that. And if they tell you otherwise, send them to the show. That's what you do. Tell them you got facts because you got an expert in this young man who's going to give it to you expertly. we don't play with you in Strong Inspirations. Now, I do have other people watch these videos on the show who I have interviewed who are in Africa. The gentleman out of Cameroon, this guy is so tough. He said he traced where the tribes went in the slave trade, coming out of that part of the continent. And then check it out. You heard me say continent. Africa is not a country. It's a bunch of countries inside of those boundaries. Did you see the video I got with the guy out of, he's in South Africa, but he was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. And my man is a TV personality over there. He said his show is shown through internet streaming services in many countries in Africa. Watch that video. How about this one? Did you see the one I did with the guy out of South Africa? Once again, he was an historian. And I asked him, I said, man, I got to be honest with you, and I shoot straight, right, with my people. I said, you kind of fair complected guy. I said, what happened? He said, man, I got white in my family. He says, you know what they call me over here? They call me colored. He said, I ain't Black, I'm colored. He said, but I don't care what they call me. I know where I come from. And he says, check it out, that apartheid was really the same as Jim Crow, just a few years later. What they did to us over here in that Jim Crow system, just hateful, they did over there. And the American media twisted it, made it sound different. Same thing. He said, I lived through that and I saw them issues, but because I'm colored, I might have a little advantage. Check that out on Strong Inspirations. Did you see the one I did with the lady? And I'm coming to America in this one. She talks about what women have gone through since slavery. In particular, the brutality of them enslavers and the rapes and all that other stuff. And you wonder sometimes when we say how we don't understand them, check out the background, understand the history. The stuff be passed down from generation to generation. And sometimes people are not able to devoid themselves of that trauma. That's the story right there. And check it out, and you'll see this from now on. The day that I'm doing this interview with this gentleman right here, this expert, is Juneteenth Day in America, when some people 2 years later, after slavery was considered abolished, they finally got the word down in the state of Texas. We ain't gonna go into that. There's other videos on the channel that talk about that. But I've been to a bunch of Juneteenth activities here in my city of Detroit, Michigan, and I've enjoyed every one of them. The love I felt, the love I tried to give to them people was satisfying. I'm satisfied, I'm filled. The music and the food and the things that I ate, I'm satisfied, I'm good. But here we go. Now, a couple things, you know, my housekeeping stuff, everybody, you've been watching me. I'm telling y'all about this movie that I've done. It's called Business in the Black. It's streaming on Amazon. Watch it, please. You'll enjoy this very much. I say you will. And other people have told me that. It's about the rise of Black business in America. That's my angle, is this business thing. You know, I ain't gonna lie to you. And then I wrote this book. It's called Black Business Book. The book is doing well. Matter of fact, I got to order some more from my printer now because I'm down on my inventory. So if you order it, I still got you. I ain't no question. It's on, and you get an autograph. 200 facts, but it actually lists about 300 businesses. And 20 of them were owned by slaves. And I tell you the name of the business, what they did and how wealthy they got. I'm talking about slave people, enslaved. It's in my book. So get you a copy of this. And I'm gonna say it one more time, and I'm always say this. You hear me use that term strong. It's my favorite word. It actually defines this young man. He's a strong guy. It's strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And check it out. That's my introduction to my guest today. Strong man. Introduce yourself. Thank you for coming on Strong Inspirations.
My name is Damon Fordham, Adjunct Professor of History at the Citadel Military College in Charleston, South Carolina, author, lecturer, and historian.
Yes, you are. That's who it is. And check it out. He good. Watch. So now what we're going to talk about, because this is his third time coming on here. He can have 8 times if he want to. We're going to watch it, make it happen, because he be writing them books, and the books come out. The books are thorough, so on and so forth. There's a book number 4. Everybody, we're gonna hold that, keep that next to you. What we're going to talk about tonight, I'm gonna lead this in this regard. We're going to talk about his visit to Africa. So I got a couple questions to start it off. And is this your first time going to Africa?
Yes, it is.
When you knew that you were going, what kind of anticipation did you have? What kind of anxiety, what kind of stress did this cause you to know that I'm going to Africa?
Well, actually, to make a very long story short, Professor Donald West down at Trident Technical College down here, he leads a delegation every year, except for the couple of years of the pandemic, to West Africa. And I found out about it a little bit late. One gentleman who was going, he found out that Donald had one of my old email addresses, so he gave my recent one. So I was able just in time to be able to make it as part of the delegation going to Senegal and Gambia.
Okay, how much time notice did you have to know that you could go?
Let's see, I found out about this in late February, and we left on May the 9th. But I was able to get the plane flight. I already had my passport, already had my vaccinations and all of that. The only thing was I had to go through a couple of orientations before I went, which is always good, because if you're going to go to a place where your culture is different and you don't know the people, it's wise to go with people who have already been there and know what's going on to sort of help you out in that regard.
All right.
Or otherwise, you'll be lost.
Yeah. When you say orientations, what did they tell you?
Well, essentially,
for
example, we had to get our yellow fever and vaccinations, our malaria pills, as well as advice on what to eat and so forth, and what not to eat while we're there, ways in dealing with the people over there, as far as basic cultural rules, going to the marketplace, things like that, the differences in various tribal groups and the differences between the two countries, things like that.
Well, how about this one? And this is an easy one. Were you afraid of the flight? How you flew from where to get there? How did you, what was your flight situation?
I flew from, well, see, since I registered later than the others, I flew by myself separately and caught up with them over there. I flew from here in Charleston, South Carolina to Washington, D.C., but then from Washington, D.C., I went to Brussels, Belgium, and from Brussels, Belgium, I went to Dakar, Senegal, a total of 22 hours.
Oh my God.
So I got no sleep.
Oh, you didn't sleep on the plane?
No, sir.
Because you're a little nervous in the air?
Well, yes, because now I've flown before. I mean, I've flown from Charleston to California on several occasions. I've flown to Toronto and Montreal and all that. But there's another matter. And then there was a lot of turbulence on both trips too.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes, lots of turbulence. And then too, since both Dakar, Senegal and Brussels, Belgium were French-speaking areas, I was somewhat apprehensive about that. But it turned out that I had very few problems as far as Brussels went. But when I went to Senegal, they were taking me through immigration and asking me all these questions in French, and I didn't speak French, so I was pretty apprehensive about that. But after I went through all of that, I went to the edge of the airport after I got my luggage, and my driver showed up. And our guide and translator, fellow by the name of Sekou Kassama. He was a Mandinka from Gambia. He came up to me and very sincerely said, "Salam alaikum, my brother." And I replied, "Wa alaikum salam." And I said, "Oh, okay, so now we're going to be okay." And then he drove me into Dakar where I caught up with the others.
All right, let me ask you this. When you got to the airport, we're going to step by step this a little bit for people who've never done it. What was the airport like? Do they have the hangars come out to the plane, or you get down and you walk the tar pit, that kind of thing?
It's interesting that you asked me that, because that was the first time ever that I didn't go directly into a hangar. I walked down there and they had the Senegalese troops there, but then we went through this little van that took us into the airport, and that's when I ran into all these Senegalese soldiers that were asking me all these questions in French and so forth, because they saw I had my passport pouch with me, and I guess they thought I was a national from another African country or something, because they were, telling me all these things in French and I couldn't understand them. So that's when I understood how a Mexican would feel when they come to this country and they don't know the language. But I managed to get through that ordeal by just pulling out my papers and all that. And after I was processed, but after I was done with that, and I met with the driver and my guide and got to the car, it was fairly smooth after that.
Do you think did they have to go through your luggage or something like that, inspect your luggage?
Well, I mean, of course, they're going to do that with x-rays and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's obvious. But again, like I said, I just didn't understand their questions, and I'm explaining to them that I didn't speak French or Arabic other than a few phrases here and there, you see.
So when you said that, you said no understand or something like that?
I said, parlez-vous non français, English.
Okay,
throughout
so you
all
knew
that.
enough to get past then. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and after a while they kind of figured that out.
Yeah.
Because they didn't speak English, ironically.
Yeah.
But in either case, though, after that was over with, we drove into the city of Dakar.
No, hold on, let me hold that thought. I don't mean to disrespect. Did you kiss the ground when you got off the plane?
No.
You heard of that though. You've heard people say that.
Yeah, no.
Or kneel down and any of that kind of thing.
No. Number one, I knew that I had to probably take care of some business once I got in that airport.
Yeah.
And they had these vans where they were taking people directly into the airport. But it was kind of interesting to walk off the plane and see all these Black military people at the foot of the plane and all that, and realizing, wow, I'm in Africa. But no,
what made you realize that? Because they were Black and they had rifles and whatnot?
Yeah, it was just interesting to see the difference in that, just the realization that, wow, I'm in Africa. Yeah. That came to me. But as far as kiss, no. Okay. I wasn't that far. I wasn't that extreme.
What about this? When you saw the airport, are there signs on the airport that says "Welcome to Africa," "Welcome to Dakar"?
Well,
Whatever.
I didn't see so much that. It was and I know I'm pronouncing this wrong, the Blaise Diagne Dakar Airport. And it was named after Blaise Diagne. And I know I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. He was a great French African hero during World War I. I mean, I knew that much.
Okay.
So, because Senegal has a long history of brilliant scholars and such, and I knew that he was one of them.
And so the airport is named in his honor.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, so like I was saying, we drove into Dakar, and Dakar is an interesting cross of modernness and old-fashionedness, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, because the city has 3 million people, but only about 3 or 4 traffic lights. So the traffic is absolutely insane. But it was just so interesting to go into this basically black city and not be just a section of a black section of a city, but a black city. I'm there and we're heading toward the hotel, and I'm just taking in the sights of people who are driving cars on one end and riding donkey carts on other ends and so forth. Yeah. And so all of this I'm just taking it all in, and I'm just finding it fascinating. And I'm getting in a good conversation with Sekou and the driver, because they both spoke English and such. And they're telling me various different things about the country and so forth, and they're getting to know me and such.
Okay.
And they were just, I was just happy to be in the presence of these good brothers who were giving me this foundation. And so I said, this is going to be okay.
Okay. Let me ask you this. How far a ride was the airport to where you, like, say, your hotel maybe?
About an hour.
That's a nice ride.
Yeah. So I got to see some of the countryside on the way to the city of Dakar, which incidentally is the biggest city in that part of West Africa above Ghana.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so does the ride take you through the city or just on the outskirts?
Yeah, we went through the city because the hotel was in the middle of the city.
Okay.
And it was pretty much of a 5-star type hotel that is usually patronized by Europeans and Americans.
Okay.
But the staff was almost 100% African.
Yeah. On your ride, you see Black people wearing what kind of clothes? What was your first eye-opening just to watch them? Because I'm thinking everybody wears African garb. That's not necessarily the case.
Here's how that works.
Yeah.
Senegal and Gambia are both 90% Muslim countries. So the vast majority of the women wear head covering. And you see a mixture of traditional African clothes with Muslim garb. And it takes kind of a while, it takes kind of wild familiarity to know the difference between the two. And the men tend to usually wear casual Western clothes because of the heat. The only time you see people there wearing suits is if they're in a very professional position. Okay, because even in dress wear, they tend to wear dressy traditional clothes, like a dressed up dashiki that has long sleeves and long pants and the kufi hat and so forth.
Yes.
You see a lot of that.
Yes. Very colorful attire.
Oh, yes, lots of color. It's full of color, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
It's visually very fascinating. And it's just so interesting how, like, in the streets, you have mostly these Japanese model cars with scooters darting in and out along with donkey carts. So you just see this whole mixture of things, and you see these buses where people are literally hanging off the backs of buses as they're catching rides into the city and such.
Oh my God. Well, okay, let's talk about this attire. Could you tell the difference between other than a suit, a person who had status and one who didn't in terms of their attire? You could see the difference in the clothes.
It's pretty obvious. It's very obvious.
Oh, is that right?
It's very obvious, yeah.
Okay.
Because the people, because again, the people with suits are people like university professors, or like, say, in the hotel, a lot of the male staff wore suits and ties.
Okay.
The cook, the waiters, the people at the desk and all of that. But other than that, the vast majority of a lot of the professional Africans that I saw wore like the more professional long sleeve dashikis with the kufi hats and such.
Okay. Did people say hi to you regularly? I'm talking about strangers. I'm not talking about hotel staff.
Well, when you greet people, well, see, it's interesting because in Senegal, it's a mixture of Arabic and French because most of the people are Muslim. They salam alaikum and you alaikum assalam.
Okay.
And then they'll say excusez-moi and so forth, or bonjour, or that sort of thing.
Okay.
They're not rude by any means as far as that goes. I mean, they were very approachable. The only thing that I would warn Americans about is when you go into the marketplace, they're very aggressive, especially in Senegal in the marketplace and trying to get you to buy their stuff. And over there,
hold on, let me stop. When you say aggressive, like how? They come up to you, get buy this.
There's a lot of that. That's the one thing I didn't like over there, is they're very aggressive and, and so they try real hard. And especially if they know that you're an American, oh, well, see, they think it's a hallelujah time because our money is worth so much in comparison to their money. We had one white woman with us. And, I mean, they were after her like locusts when we went into the marketplace because they were sure that she was rich and she got kind of overwhelmed with that, with people trying to get her to buy stuff.
Yeah, okay. Let's say that now the marketplace, is that a mall or that's just individuals who set up a table, or maybe they don't have a table and they're selling their wares?
These are usually held outdoors. They would, if you didn't know any better, you'd think you were going to a shanty town by and large.
I got you.
Wait, let me ask you this. Have you ever been to Crenshaw?
Yeah.
Okay, you know how Crenshaw, they have those swap meet type things?
Yeah, right.
It's kind of a low grade version of that.
Okay. And so maybe and those are, there's a big one, or there are multiple ones scattered throughout
there? There are multiple ones scattered around the city.
And what are they selling? Gift items,
trinkets, souvenir type stuff. And sometimes they sell clothes. I got a couple, and I got some, like this dashiki, for example. I got about several good dashikis while I was over there, as well as little trinkets. Okay. Sometimes sometimes like in the bigger marketplaces, they sell food. Okay. And groceries and that sort of thing.
Okay, I got you.
Right. For example, in the country, people will say they'll cut up a calf or a sheep or something like that, and they'll sell it out in the marketplace like that, or they'll grow fruits and the women will have them in these baskets on their heads.
Oh, really?
Mangoes and that sort of thing.
Oh, well, okay. How about this one? When do you exchange money? Did you exchange money before you got there? When you got there?
When we got there. We did that when we got to the hotel. They did exchange for us. For example, look, this is a $2,000 bill.
Right.
From Senegal.
Right.
Okay. And a $5,000 bill from Senegal.
Right.
This is worth probably not even $10 in American money.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Stay on that. How much is a hamburger?
Well,
how much is, I'm saying, just give me an idea of comparing it to an item in America.
$10,000 in their money.
So $4, maybe $5.
Right. Oh. Yeah, they have a good restaurant there. They have some good restaurants and others that, you would wish for the FDA. It kind of varies, you know, because there's a good one there. Believe it or not, I was shocked to see Kentucky Fried in Dakar. Yeah. But for the most part, we ate jollof rice, which is a specialty over there. It's a kind of brown rice. And they ate lots of fish. We had lots of fish.
So when you went to a restaurant, an item on there, top of the line fish it might say 15,000, which it could equate to $8. Right, exactly. Oh, really? So your money goes a long way, and you eating well. It does. But yeah, a middle-class American could live like a king. Okay. Okay. And so now you got a pocket full of money. You took $100. Let's say, what did you exchange the first day? If you don't mind, I ask you. You mean as far as their money? No, from your money, you gave them $100 and said, let's start here.
Yeah, essentially. So you can pretty much live for a few days with that.
Oh, really? Oh,
Mhm.
okay. That's what I'm asking you. Yeah. And you could eat and stuff like, okay,
Oh
how about this?
yeah.
Yeah.
And our hotel was already taken care, and we already
Yeah.
took care of the hotel before we got there.
Yeah,
So
right, right.
that was the hotel was great. I mean, it had all the modern conveniences, but not every place there has modern conveniences.
Yeah.
And
The
that's
the
especially true in Gambia.
the dashiki you got on costs how much American?
Um, I would say that this one in particular, if I recall, I think I paid the guy an equivalent to $30 or something like that for this.
Oh, $30 American dollars.
Right.
So he
I think
told you
that'd be
I
the flat.
want so, but if you put it in his terms, it was 20,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
got about 5 or 6 dashikis while I was there, and they were
Yeah,
great. I mean, I enjoyed them. And then I bought presents for friends and things like that.
yeah. When you say they were great, because let me be honest with you, I bought a couple items at an African World Expo that were made in some part of Africa, and I ain't gonna lie to you, this it seemed like the seam was a little bit off, that kind of thing. You didn't get that. They were made very well, and the material
This
is
great
soft.
stuff, great stuff. I mean, I was wearing this all day for Juneteenth.
Yeah, and the material is soft. Is it
Oh
cotton?
yeah, I love them.
Okay, okay.
You know, I've gotten lots of compliments since I got back.
What made you buy from who you bought them from?
Well, I just happened to like them. It was just that simple. And this
Okay,
guy wasn't particularly pushy, so I figured,
okay, I
okay.
got you. I got
Mhm.
you. And you made his day. And he was in the
Right.
marketplace.
Well, actually, he came to our hotel room because he knew Mr. West, the guy who coordinated the trip, and he
Okay,
had some with him. So I
okay,
figured, okay, I'll get a few of these.
okay, I got you.
Mhm.
Couple more. Do they have what other American or European stores did you see?
To be honest with you, the Kentucky Fried was the only American / European. Well, in Gambia, in Banjul, the capital, they have a section of stores that cater to Americans and Europeans primarily.
And those stores are Gucci, the high-end stores, or
No, they're basically restaurants and things like that
okay,
have
okay,
American and European style food like pizza joints, burger joints, that sort of thing.
okay. We rolling. How about this? What was on the radio? Was it French music? I know they have different dials. And what was on the TV?
A lot of soccer games, number one.
Oh, is
We
that
did
right?
have African CNN, which was how we found out about what was happening in Buffalo and Texas. We found out we only had 4 channels in the whole hotel, actually.
Oh, really?
Now, there's a lot of, now the Gambian radio, I didn't listen to the radio too much in Senegal because I knew it would all be in French. But in Gambia, I heard a lot of kora music, which the
So,
kora that I bought in Senegal, it's their stringed instrument,
yeah,
you see?
yeah,
And of course, they play it a lot better than I do.
yeah.
But this is like the music, this is one of the major musical instruments of Gambia. They
Okay,
play a lot of songs with that and so forth. And
okay.
so there's a lot of kora music mixed with modern day hip hop on those stations. And they even have African hip hop over there too.
Oh, what you say modern day? You could hear LL Cool J or
Well,
Drake.
but see, they even have African hip hoppers now. They have African rappers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they have an African guy they have a Congolese guy who sounds like Art Kelly. And it's just interesting. A lot of their stuff musically, it's a mixture of traditional African music with Americanized things.
Oh, and then you can see CNN and know what's going on in America.
Yeah, they have African
Otherwise,
CNN. They have CNN Africa.
did you ever see local news?
Yes.
And
And the local news is done often in local dialects as well as English and French. You can get in the tribal languages. You can watch a newscast in a tribal language if you want, as well as English and French.
what are they talking about? Is it like the crime that happened, the weather, all that you
I
ordinarily
have
know?
this right by me. This is a Gambian newspaper. It's Foroya, which is freedom. And here you see government to release white paper on the truth and reconciliation recommendations. They just got rid of a dictator named Yahya, and they're going through these trials about his henchmen and the concentration camps he had and all of that.
Hmm.
And, you know, basically things like that.
Okay.
But now as for the crime, it's different than us because you see, the average person over there cannot own a gun. Only the police and the army can own guns. So they're going to arrest you for a fist fight. So it's a relatively peaceful society.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So a person who's homeless and whatnot, he ain't gonna take a chance to rob somebody, or pickpocket, or anything like that.
They pretty much have things like that under control from what I've seen.
Oh.
I'm not saying they have no crime at all. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no society like that, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, they're not that dangerous.
Oh, really?
Really.
Okay, I was wondering that. Because that's different than what you might suspect, and maybe I'm even wrong saying is what you expect on the Caribbean islands, like
Well,
in
that's
Kingston.
the Caribbean. I don't know their laws over
yeah,
there.
Yeah,
See,
but yeah.
the countries where I went, they don't play with a whole lot of stuff.
Are they as stringent as no spitting on the ground and
Well,
no
you can get
cursing and that kind of thing?
You can get 15 years for marijuana and cocaine. And you can get locked up for life for homosexual activity.
Wow. In both of those places that you went to?
Yes, sir.
So if they saw you having sex with someone of the same sex, they would, I mean,
Drink. They lock you up.
How would they know?
Well, it's against their culture.
Yeah.
Because see, both of those are heavily Islamic as well as traditional cultures. They're very conservative socially over there.
Okay. Do men and not men? I'm gonna scratch that. Do women have social liberties where they can be sexy, or, you know, I mean, can they get college educations and all that?
Let me say this about that, okay? The University of Dakar in Senegal and the University of Gambia, they both, each time when we both went to both those campuses, the campuses were filled with students, male and female, and you could barely hear a peep in the libraries. Those are some brilliant young people.
Now,
and yes, the women are very educated over there.
Are they able to do in any industry, like, you know, male dominated industries here?
As far as I could see, they were in a lot of very high class positions. You had a lot of them as professors and that sort of thing.
You told me when we spoke that you actually spoke to a class or two while you were there.
Yes, I spoke at the University of Gambia. And what happened with that was this, is that they invited me to speak to their students. And I told them that the people in the West often write you as Africans as uncivilized, but the way that you have treated myself and my delegation, whether we were in the rural areas of the jungles or whether we were in the colleges like this or by higher level people and such, you have treated us with such kindness and courtesy that as far as how you treat other human beings, you have more civilization in your pinky finger than many of us have in our whole bodies. So I encourage them that while it's good for you to learn our technology and advancements, I said, take the technology, but keep your culture and keep who you are, because just as we have a lot to teach you, you have a lot to teach us.
Okay, I loved it, and I know they did. Did the kids, the students, they were very attentive, evidently?
Oh yes, you don't see a whole lot of like talking in class and all of that,
yeah, right,
carrying on, and
right.
In the libraries they were quiet and with their books.
Could you imagine that those schools had the same amount of offering and like social programs? Did they have fraternities and sororities, maybe?
Well, no, I didn't see any of the fraternity and sorority stuff. I didn't see any of that.
Or, you know, flyers on the wall. The Black Engineering Society is having a Christmas.
I didn't see. I didn't act. You know, that didn't even cross my mind. I mean, I know they play a lot of soccer, but I mean,
okay.
As far as all that other stuff, no. But I saw nothing regarding fraternities or anything like that.
Nothing.
That's not to say it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I didn't see it.
Social
organizations that I saw. I mean, while of course they would laugh and joke among themselves. When it came time to the class, they were about serious business.
Is that right? I love it. So now you go around the city. You alluded to the technology. Was there some lapse and some differences like that? Is Wi-Fi readily available, that kind of thing?
Well, it depends on where you are.
Okay.
I mean, their electricity goes out frequently. There's some places without
really?
running. We went to villages that were still in huts and didn't have running water or electricity. And there's supposedly the new president of Gambia is working on getting the countryside areas electrified, but it's a long process.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those countries, when they broke loose from Europe, some of the European countries refused to give them support afterwards, which is why some of them are in the condition that they are in today.
But I mean, you're talking how many years ago when they broke away?
50.
And they're still fighting to get back up to speed.
Yes, and some of them have to depend on Asian countries.
To do what?
Well, for financing, for outside financing.
Oh.
Because there's just simply not a whole lot as far as with infrastructure. I mean, Gambia's major export is peanuts, whereas Senegal is supported fairly well by France. That's not the case with Gambia.
Oh. When that means supported well, that means that that country has their white populace on top running things?
No. I mean, as far as financial support from these colonial powers.
Okay.
That's what I mean. You don't see that many white people. I mean, they're there, but I just didn't see a whole lot.
Really? Oh, so you don't see that many?
Not many. They're there. I mean, you see them every now and then, but
yeah.
You see a lot of you see occasional European visitors here and there and things like that. But
yeah.
I didn't see a whole lot of white people while I was there, other than the one that we went with. But
yeah,
you're dealing largely with Black countries.
Oh, what's that dynamic to go someplace where everybody is Black there? What does that do for you?
It's fascinating, really, because with me, I mean, as dark as I am, I mean, it was interesting to be in the majority for a change.
Okay.
Because as I told you, when we had that conversation, they kept mistaking me for being of the Wolof tribe. And this is where things really get fascinating, was that when we were at the Black Civilizations Museum in Dakar, which is comparable to the Black Museum in DC.
Okay. Is that big? It's comparable in size?
Oh, yes.
Oh, really?
There was this young lady student from the University of Dakar who was our docent, our tour guide. And I kept getting the strangest feeling around her. And Sekou, our guide, he walked over to her and they conversed, and she pointed at me and I said, "What's this all about?" And he called me and says, "Professor Micho Wolof's sister." And this young lady could pass for my daughter or my younger sister, facial features and everything. And, it was really touching, and we struck up a conversation and we continued to communicate. But then
she spoke English, evidently.
Yeah, she spoke some English. Okay. She spoke enough to converse.
Okay.
But when I got to the hotel and looked up the Wolof tribe, I found out that the Wolofs were the griots of that part of West Africa, the historians and the storytellers. And they had a picture of a griot who could have been my great-granddaddy from 1890. And that's when I realized that these are literally my people.
And that made you feel something, didn't it?
What? I mean, it's like, it really just made me realize who I am on a number of levels when I found out that I'm actually from a long line of storytellers and historians, and that I'm doing what I was put here to do. And by this act of God, I managed to find these people who shared my characteristics and everything. That was what made it such a heavy experience. That and Gory Island.
Okay. All right. So now you spend these days in Dakar, you drive around, he takes you on tours to the museums, you go to the universities. And I want to stay on that before we get to Gory. Is there some landscape things that you see? Like, is there waterfalls or rivers, lakes, that kind of thing?
The Gambia, the border of Gambia and Senegal is a river. And you have to take a ferry to get from Senegal to Gambia. and the ferry is just packed up with people. It's just massive, really. And that takes roughly about a half an hour or so. And so it was interesting to watch that dynamic, because since we had all our passports and paperwork, we were pretty much safe to go. But you see hundreds of people crowded, waiting to go on these ferries to cross the river, especially from Gambia to Senegal, because Gambia is much poorer than Senegal. So you have a lot of people who are trying to get from Gambia to Senegal to work, you see. And we also, among other things, went to James Island, which is now called Kunta Kinte Island. The Gambians named it after their national hero, the guy from Roots. And
oh, so hold on, let me stop you there. So he is actually a person.
yeah, that's right.
Oh.
In fact, I met some of his descendants while I was in Jufure village.
Kunta Kinte is, okay, take us back just a second here. I'm not going to take too much time on. Take us back. The story in the movie of Kunta Kinte, he's an African that comes here and has to change his name, right?
Right. Well, he left behind brothers and sisters. And those brothers and sisters had descendants, which are today still in the Jufure village. I had a chance to talk with some of them.
What made him so famous? He's not the first one to come. He just
Well, it just so happened that Alex Haley was one of the first to make that connection.
Oh.
And they have pictures there of Alex Haley with some of the elders there, and some of the descendants of those elders that met Alex Haley in 1967 are still there.
So Alex Haley is one who, because of what he did, made Kunta Kinte a national figure.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it wasn't like it was something even special before Alex. It's because of that. It became like.
Well, that's what drew attention to the Jufure village. And since then, Alex Haley paid for electricity and water to come to the village. And Minister Farrakhan helped them build a mosque over there, because again, many of the people there are Muslim and such.
When you say village, how many people might be in that village? How big is the village?
From the looks of it, I'd say no more than about 1,000.
Oh, okay.
It's a small village way out in the countryside.
How do you get from the city to the village?
Through our driver, Omar, in a van.
On a van, yeah.
Right. That's what Omar was our driver. He took us everywhere.
Okay.
And between the van and the ferry, and you can drive the van onto the ferry.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now that we getting there on that river. What was that river? Is it got a famous name? That's not the Nile.
Gambia Belongo, the Gambia River, also known as in Roots, Alex Haley referred to as Gambia Belongo. It's the Gambia River.
Is there a beach along there that people swim in, or don't get in that water?
They don't swim in it, they fish in it. And off the coast of that is what the British called James Island, but what they've since renamed as Kunta Kinte Island, which was the slave port where they took them up until 1807, when the British got out of the slave trading business. And when the British got out of this, according to Lamin, who's a descendant of the Kintes, he was our guide. He told us how when the British got out of the slave trading business, the island is a half-hour away by boat, and they took the Africans out of the cells and said, well, look here, you're no use to us now, so Britain's done with slavery. Y'all want to be free? And they said, yeah. So they pointed to the mainland coast, which is a 30-minute boat ride away, and said, swim back.
Some of them didn't make it.
Of course, none of them did.
And so they died in that swim.
Yeah. For the most
literally,
part, yeah.
They just said, okay, do it, and we know we're killing you.
Pretty much. They were that bitter over losing their trade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you went on the island. It's is it kind of like the door no return type what we hear about, or Gory Island?
Well, not so much on that one. I'm going to get into Gory Island in a second, but not so much on Kunta Kinte, because erosion has taken care of most of that. But then we went to Kunta Kinte Island after we went to Gory Island. So that kind of blunted the emotion of that. But it was Gory Island that was most emotional. And for those of your viewers who don't know, Gory Island is where 13% of African Americans' ancestors were held in captivity before, during the slave trade. You see, it's off the coast of Senegal, and the Portuguese strategically used it because it's the furthest western point on the African continent, which means it's the closest to our continent. So it's a quicker journey.
I got you.
More. So anyway, they would capture them from the points adjacent and take them to these cells in this castle, which we went to. They had these cells for separate men, women, and children, and they'd have them all chained up. And then they would march them through what is called the door of no return. And that would lead to a ramp onto the slave ship. And this would be the last thing that they would see before they came to the New World. So we went there, and I went in the door of no return and saw nothing in front of me but the Atlantic Ocean. And I passed out. And
you really passed out. I mean,
yeah, I collapsed in the arms of your homegirl of yours from Detroit named Carol Tucker. She was behind me, and then we both just cried in each other's arms at seeing this.
How big is the door? Is it it's a doorway? You got to bend down? Or?
Well, it's a little taller than me, so I stood up all the way while I had my picture taken in it. But it's fair. I would say the doorway is about, I would say from a guess, about 6.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I'm 5'10", so.
Yeah. You had little headroom. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had the board. They used to have the board to that directly to the slave ship, because again, when you walk out of the door of no return, there's nothing in front of you but the ocean.
So okay, but that board is got to be long enough for the ship to get as close as it can to the land, and then have a board right there.
Right. Now, of course, the board's not there now, obviously.
Yeah.
But you could see how all of this was played out, though. And they had pictures of Nelson Mandela and President Obama and people like that when they visited there to pay homage. It's almost like Jewish people going to the Wailing Wall, or personally, I consider it the black man's Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Our place of tragedy and trauma. And very few people go through there unaffected. I mean, you hardly see anybody go through there with a dry eye.
You hear voices?
Personally, I didn't say I heard voices. It's just the sadness of knowing what happened there is what got to me more than anything else. Now, you have people who say that, and I don't take that away from them. They probably did, but I just felt the overwhelming sadness of knowing what took place where I was standing, and this could be where my very direct ancestors probably marched through, because again, 13%, as I said, of today's African Americans were marched through that very slave port.
Is it one door, or is it a bunch of doors?
It was one main door that led to the ship.
Right.
Because you have this section where you have several cells, okay, where they imprison the men and the women and the children and so forth.
Yeah.
See?
And then they march them through that door.
Right.
Could you imagine, are there holes in the wall where the people are trying their best not to go through the door? They're kicking in the door?
No, it's made of, a lot of it is made of stone, you see.
No light?
A lot of that's made of stone.
Yeah, no light or anything like that? Is it dark in there?
It's very dark. In fact, I have a YouTube video of the guy giving us the tour of it. But it's very depressing, and it's dark even in the bright sunshine when we were there.
Oh.
So again, it's a heavy, see, that's when, when you walk through stuff like that, that's when you know without a doubt that you're Black, when you go through something like that.
So then you leave there, and then what do? I mean, you got to get some water, you got to get your breath. You walk out of the building.
We had water with us, and they have a restaurant there.
In that building, they got a restaurant?
Not in the building, elsewhere on the island.
Oh, okay.
Elsewhere on the island.
Okay.
They have a restaurant, and they have drummers surrounding the place too, that kind of add to the atmosphere of it. But the strangest thing is that when we got back on the ferry to take us back to the mainland of Senegal, there were these children that went there on a field trip, and they were just beating the drums and dancing and singing and so forth. And that kind of picked up our mood as we got back into Senegal.
Yeah, sure.
Because even when you get there, they have drummers on the island that meet the boat when you come there, and it just kind of heightens the mood and all of that. And then the griots come up, that is the storytellers, and then they take you from there and they give you tours of what's going on. Some speak French, some speak English, and others speak tribal languages.
When I got the gentleman on the channel who talks about Gory Island, and he talks about in particular the women of the Gory Island.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with their strength? That these women were warriors or something like that? Something special about the women?
Well, now, Zora Neale Hurston wrote about that in Barracoon. Now, what I saw with the women there was most of them were selling stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, most of them were in the marketplace. The women that I saw that were native to the area was basically either working at that restaurant or they were selling things in the marketplace. And then there were a few who were drumming and playing instruments and such. That was basically it to what I saw the women over there. Saw a lot of goats too, as a matter of fact. But then you see goats throughout pretty much a lot of Africa because that's a major part of their diet.
Oh,
they drink a lot of goat's milk and they eat a lot of goat meat.
Compared to eating steer and chicken and other things.
Well, they eat that too. You know, we went to a family in Gambia that had a lot of chickens, for example. So they basically have the same type of livestock that we do. I didn't see, you know, I saw a couple of alligators while I was over there. We saw a few monkeys in Gambia, but that was about it, really, as far as what you don't usually see over here.
You an historian and you know a lot of these things. Was there something that you learned differently?
Well, yes, I learned about the tribes and the differences in the tribes. And we also went to a Muslim mosque, the King Fahad Mosque in Banjul, the capital of Gambia. And I learned a lot about Gambia's history as well as Senegal's history. I learned a lot more than what I knew before about the great scholars of Senegal. We had some brilliant professors who gave us some really interesting information about some of their leaders and such. And it left me with a pretty good impression. I mean, the Senegalese in particular are very brilliant people intellectually. People like Cheikh Anta Diop, and we had this Professor Usman who spoke with us. And then even I think the most impressive thing to me was that even when we went into the villages, I met with Chief Omar of the Mandinkas, as well as, Chief Lamin of the Mandinkas and Chief Omar of the Fulanis. And even the poorest peasant of Africans that I met carried themselves like they were Prince Charles and Queen Elizabeth. They have that dignity about them. Muhammad Ali, when he went to the Congo in 1974, told the people of the Congo that they had a dignity in their poverty that we do not have over here. And I think he's right, because I think that growing up taking for granted that you're in a country that your people run makes a whole lot of difference. They, even in their poverty, they see the possibilities of what could be.
Oh, okay. Could a person come from some of that poverty and be a good student and go to college? Are there layers of how you can progress?
Well, it's a little bit of both, because they have some schools that are very poor where you have 80 students to a teacher, but then you also have private schools too. But then every now and then a really intelligent poor students gets through the ranks and manage to advance and such.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
As we, I don't know, so kind of come to close, what else do you want to share with us?
Well, I'll share you
Yeah.
Now you asked me earlier about kissing the ground, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me say this. I think that we all have that moment where African Americans dream of going back to Africa and getting in touch with the people over there, welcome my brother and sister. Well, that moment happened to me on my first morning there. We were going through Dakar, the main city in Senegal, and this bunch of school children happened to be on a field trip. And so myself and a guy named Joy Dada, who's with me, who's an Asian Indian American, we walked toward the children and said, "Hi, we're visiting from America." And they go, "Oh, America." And so they take these pictures with us. They're posing with us, taking selfies with us, laughing and talking with us. And I posted pictures of that on my Facebook page, and everybody talks about the joy on my face in those pictures. And that is so true, because they were so welcoming and happy to see me and everything. That, and I was telling you earlier about how Saku gave that sincere assalamu alaikum when I got off the plane and all of that. All of those things made me really feel at home and at one with the people of Senegal, and by extension with the people of West Africa.
So when you, that good feeling is what you would tell somebody here in America why we need to go.
Well, I'd have to add a cautionary note to that. See,
Okay.
I'm somewhat well-versed in some of these things about Africa, and I went through an extensive orientation before I left and all. If you go there not understanding how to talk with these people and their culture and such, and you go around saying and doing the wrong things, you won't do very well. So you have to really kind of deal with people who know the people and know the culture before you get there. And that will basically smooth your transition there. But don't go there by yourself. Go with somebody who knows who knows the people and knows the customs, and then the group rate's better also.
Yeah. Well, okay. One more thing on it. When you say no to people, like, could you say please or don't say please and it's very offensive? Or what might be offensive? Let's go with that.
They don't like when you take their pictures without permission, for example.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
They don't like that. That's one thing in particular I could tell you right now that I learned about firsthand.
Right.
They don't like when you take their picture without permission. That's a big no-no over there.
I got you.
And then you have to remember that these people are Muslim too, so you have to respect their rules about various things and so forth. As far as that goes, like, you don't go up and just hug their women when you don't know them and all that, when you're just meeting them. You don't do that kind of stuff.
I got you. I got you.
You can't just go up to, yo, baby, let me rap to you. That kind of, no, you can't do that kind of stuff over there.
Oh, I got you.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to conduct yourself. You got to watch your P's and Q's around their women.
And the weather is, does it get cold? Something like that? The weather is hot? What's the weather
Well,
like?
it was very hot, but see, here in Charleston, the weather is hot too.
Yeah.
And which is why the dashiki and the traditional clothes are so functional over there, because of the heat. When you wear a dashiki or traditional African or traditional Muslim clothes, it's very functional in keeping you cool in the heat.
Yeah, okay.
So, but however, they have what's called the monsoon season, the rainy seasons in early to midsummer and all of that.
When you mean early to midsummer, you're talking about what?
Late May through early June, that sort of thing. We left right before the monsoons.
It rains a lot.
Right. And then too, in a lot of, especially in the rural areas, which is the majority of these countries, you have a lot of red clay. So you can imagine how that in the streets. So you can imagine how that is.
Oh, on your clothes and your shoes and that kind of thing.
Right.
I got you. Lastly, when you said goodbye to the trip, the next day you're getting ready to leave. What did you do? Did you ever go walk by yourself and look at the stars?
Yeah, I went through the jungles quite a bit, actually. That I found a lot of peace in those areas. I tell you, I certainly did. The few times I was alone, especially when we were out with the Mandingas and the Fulanis, I would sometimes steal off by myself and wander. It was pretty nice. It's beautiful out there. And as I said, the people were very friendly and welcoming to us and all that. So I really definitely felt, whereas I consider this is my home, but that's my home away from home.
You could go back?
I'm going back in 2024.
Okay. Another country or the same one?
The same ones. I want to see some of the people who I met again when I go back.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And then, of course, meet some more.
Yeah, sure. Is there a question that I have not asked you or anything like that? I know we did a lot. Yeah,
well, I can tell you this.
Yeah.
If you go there being somewhat educated about Africa and its people and all of that, trust me, you will never see yourself in the same way again. You will definitely know who you are as a person and appreciate yourself as a person. And when you see how brilliant some of those folks are over there and how kind they are and all that, you will see yourself and the world and your place in it in a very different light.
I love it. That's the closing remark, everybody. Whew. I'm telling you, at Strong Inspirations, I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to let the people do the talking.
Well, you know what? I told them when I was there that when I came back, I'm going to tell the people here the truth in America, the truth about Africa. So I thank you and your assistance in that process.
Yes, you have. And so are you going to try to teach a different class about this experience or something?
Well, you know, as a matter of fact, there was some talk about the possibility of me doing some teaching at the University of Gambia at some point. I might do that in the future, but definitely since then, I've lectured quite a bit about all of this. And this is one of several interviews I've done on the subject so far. And the more the merrier, you know, because I'm all about spreading knowledge and education.
Yes.
So I'm definitely about telling people the truth about this. So, because again, too many of us over here, when Muhammad Ali said that people in the Congo had a dignity in their poverty that we don't have, I'd like to take that dignity that I saw over there and bring some of that over here because we need it here.
I love it. That's the last remark, everybody. Strong Inspirations here. I'm Anthony Brogdon. And everybody hit the subscribe button on the channel, hit the like button on this video, because I know you like it. I love it. I know you love it. I doubly love it. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up, you get a ding, a shock, or something like that, and tell somebody about Strong Inspiration. I'm giving it to you from all angles, with people who are experts. And to you, my brother, I say this, and I mean this with all sincerity. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love what you're doing. You are griot of the highest level, of the highest level. That's what we have right here on the channel, everybody. Do you have a website? And lastly, tell us, you got books and things. And let's plug a little bit right quick.
Yes, I have a website. I have a YouTube channel called The American Storyteller. Okay. And the last 5 videos I did were either in Africa or of it. And also on my 4th book, this one is called The 1895 Segregation Fight in South Carolina. It's about how when Ben Tillman, the architect of segregation in South Carolina, made the Jim Crow laws in our state, these 6 Black heroes, including the great Robert Smalls, who freed himself and his family from slavery, they got together and tried to stop him in the State House from doing that in the face of insults and threats. And it's a very important buried story in American history that I dug up. As we speak, you can get it on Amazon pre-order. It'll come out on July the 25th, 2022.
There it is. And website, did you say website or no website just yet?
Yeah, I said my YouTube channel, The American Storyteller, as well as my Facebook page, Damon L. Fordham. And I'm on Twitter, let's see, at Damon L. Fordham. So
okay.
Catch me either way, all right?
You got you right there. Hey, everybody, with that, I'm gonna say, is there, close us out. Is there a goodbye or something like that, other than that, you know, I'll let you got the last word, then we out.
Well, I'll tell you this. When I got on the plane, I was sitting next to this Senegalese fellow because he had heard me say salam alaikum, excusez-moi, as I'm trying to get on and get into the seat. So the stewardess asked me if I want something to drink. And I said, yeah, y'all got any Coke Zero? And the Senegalese put his paper down. He looked at me, you American? And I said, why'd you ask? He said, I thought you Senegalese till I hear you speak. You sound like American from American South. He'd been in Texas. And I said, brother, I'm a Senegalese Wolof American.
There you go. There you go. Thank you for coming back on, man.
All right.
All right, we're gonna talk
Stay
soon
blessed,
again.
brother.
All right,
Okay.
peace. Yeah.